Rick Simpson is symbolic of a new group of users of cannabis who arose in the Netherlands, the medicinal consumer. This new cannabis consumer may also want to make use of the relaxing effects of cannabis, but is mainly focused on its beneficial medicinal effects.
First off, I think we all have the right to grow this plant and produce the medicine for ourselves. There should be no issue about that. But if someone wants to produce the extracts on a grand scale and provide it to the public, that would have to be regulated, like quality control and standards would have to be maintained. Beyond that, no regulations are needed. I say the people should control it.
Well, hello again in the Cannabis University. Now we have Mr. Rick Simpson here.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Simpson, how are you since the last time you've been here in Amsterdam? Exactly a year ago. Have a seat.
A little bit older and a little bit more exhausted, but we're gaining more followers every day, and it's helping people. You know, we've got to get this plant made totally. Well, we don't need legalization. We need governments to repeal these stupid laws because they're all based in corruption anyway. The government has no right to outlaw this plant. They never did. So I think it's time for us all to tell them to get the hell out of the way. You know, we want to heal.
Well, that's a fine statement for the beginning. I mean, but I mean, isn't there any discussion possible with politicians and others? I mean,
I've been trying for years to deal with politicians, and you know, I mean, the bottom line is it's like this: politicians have this great big back pocket, and they like to have it filled, and we don't have. Well, I mean, we pay them a good salary. They should be working for us, but they're not. It's obvious. You know, I mean, when you look at the science and everything that's behind us now, all the top experts in the world all agree, you know, legalize it or make it set it free. Let us all grow it. Let us make our own medicine if that's what we want to do. And even the Bible tells us we have this right.
Okay. This is one thing I want to say as well. I mean, this is very much obviously also questions from the audience. So
Yeah.
Everyone who has a question, please raise your hand, and you can ask a question. I'll come to you with a microphone, and we get it all sorted. One thing I want to say, though, I mean, a critical note. You've always said, and you're an example of it, but also people who say, for example, cannabis oil is going as far as it cures cancer. Mm-hmm. It's the name, the title of your documentary.
Yep.
How are you standing with that fact?
Well, the fact I'm standing with is these extracts. I mean, the medicinal values of different strains of cannabis can vary in healing powers. But lucky for us, I mean, basically all the heavy sedative indica strains are very effective in the treatment of cancer. And I've said this right along. I mean, if you have the right extract produced from the right strain, it'll work on any disease. It really is. And I mean, if you mix the extracts from, say, 6 or 8 different indica strains, mix them together, and you've got a cure-all. I mean, this works on everything. You know, so it saddens me so badly because, you know, everywhere I go, I see people, you know, suffering and hobbling down the sidewalk, and I know they could all be helped. You know, it's just a matter of us getting together and, you know, and putting a stop to this nonsense. The science is there, the research, it's all there. So what the hell do these governments think they're doing? Mm. You know.
Okay. Yeah, and one since the last year, you've been living in Europe as well. I mean, what's the biggest change you've seen in countries where you've been?
Well, basically, it's the speed that, you know, a lot of countries are legalizing, you know, the medicinal use now, a great number. Like an example would be, I did a lecture with 3 of the top experts in the world, Dr. Hanush and Dr. Hornby and Dr. Malamud in Macedonia in 2014. When we got there, 70% of the people were against even the medicinal use. 70%. 4 days later, when we left, 70% were in favor. So it's having a very positive, effect, and it's just happening everywhere now. I mean, over half the United States is legalized, and basically that's the country that started this mess. So, you know, it's changing. You know, this is going to be the new face of medicine. Those cannabinoids are basically going to wipe out the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay. Are there any questions already now in the audience? Someone wants to ask a question. I've got one here.
Isn't that also? isn't that also the reason why a lot of people don't want the big corporations to come into the cannabis world as it is going in America right now, because they're going to sort of monopolize on the medicinal part of it well, and also the pharmaceutical industries are shitting bricks right now.
They should be.
But their money is still holding a lot of these lobbyists in play.
Yeah.
So actually, it wasn't really a question. It was more like, what is your take on this?
Well, I mean, when you look at what's going on in the U.S., to me, it's just ridiculous. I mean, everybody's running off, tax and regulate and all of this nonsense. These governments don't have that right. They never had the right to outlaw it in the first place, and they damn well don't have the right to regulate it. I mean, this is what we got to get together and make it happen. But it's becoming easier every day because the evidence is growing so rapidly. And just something I would like to mention here. Now, I've never been a big fan of CBD. I know most people don't really know all of this, but THC is the cancer killer. And this is what you got to remember. Now, CBD in hormone-driven cancers, such as breast cancer, CBD can have some good benefits, there's no question. But in most of the cancers I've seen, lung cancer, bowel cancer, whatever, brain cancer, the higher the THC level, the better. And I've always said, the higher this extract will get you, the more chance you have to be healed. And I've seen this over and over, treating terminal cancer patients. So, I just want to work in the future in perfecting the medicine to higher levels. And I already know how to do that. And it looks as though I finally got some backers that are going to get behind this. And what I'm looking to do, I want to see the highest quality cannabis extracts made available to everyone for $10 a gram, no more.
Okay. Yeah. Other questions? Any other questions in the audience? Oh, another one.
So how do you fight the pharmaceutical lobbyists? I mean, that's a very powerful force, and they have so much resources.
There's how I fight it right there. Yeah, public opinion. That's, I mean, no matter what, people don't seem to get it. I mean, we run, actually, it's up to us who's sitting there, controlling our governments. But the people are the power in any country. And all you have to do is bring the right knowledge to them. And it might take them a little while, but sooner or later, they'll react. I don't want to see violence in this, but, if these politicians, if they keep behaving the way they are, I mean, some of these guys are going to start getting shot. It's that simple.
No. That wouldn't help anyone.
Well, I know it wouldn't help, but I mean, what else do you have to fight fire with fire? If your mother was dying from cancer and they're preventing you from healing her, what do? You can't negotiate with psychopaths. It's that simple. Well, I'll tell you one thing. When they get sick themselves, guess what they'll be looking for?
But one more thing. I mean, a lot of people also, when the money comes in, for example, there's a Swiss hedge fund now investing a lot of money in cannabis and no history at all with cannabis. Yeah. They just show a lot of dollars, they show a lot of euros, and people go and with them. For example, I know Ed Rosenthal, who's basically advising Pharmacello, which is a big company.
Yeah, but
how can you make sure that this is going to be a sort of a base whereby everyone is still involved instead of the big companies?
Well, we can't allow the pharmaceutical industry to control this because they're never going to make medicine as good as you can make it yourself. I mean, the name of the game of the pharmaceutical industry is return business. They're not going to give you a THC or high THC extract like I produced, like something that'll actually heal you, because then you don't need to come back. So, and if they do, so they would produce a lower quality medication, quite a bit lower quality than you can make yourself. And the pharmaceutical industry is not exactly known for, giving medicine out at a decent price, are they? We don't need them.
I'm ashamed to admit it, but I used to work for Big Pharma, financial controller, so I see the numbers.
Right.
And they are charging the shit out of people. Mm-hmm. We can shut it down real easy.
Right.
Just stop taking the medicine. It's not working. They know it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I thank Rick Simpson because I'm using the THC oil for chronic Lyme disease, late-stage Lyme disease. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting my life back.
You sure are, dear.
Thank you.
Now, it's as I said, like for breast cancers and things like that, a certain amount of CBD could be beneficial. But for God's sakes, you got to have the THC too. You know, it's a lot like Dr. Michelin said. You know, it's the entourage effect of all these different cannabinoids working together. But you see, today they're trying to separate them, you know, CBD, or CBN, and all these different cannabinoids. There's well over 100 of them. You know, the drug industry would like to separate everyone and say, well, this is good for that, and this is good for something else. It's a bunch of nonsense. Take the damn extract, and I mean, it might make you high in the beginning. I won't deny that, but getting high never hurt no one. And the thing is, once you become accustomed to an extract, you become immune to it. That's how I get people up, usually within a month, up to about a gram every 24 hours. But if you get up to that dosage, and if you get a different extract from a different strain, and you take that same dosage, you're going to get as high as a kite. But again, nobody ever died from cannabis.
Okay. Are there more questions? Yes.
I'd like to know if you know anything about the treatment of epilepsy with cannabis oil.
Well, again, there's another one. I mean, the CBD has a very positive effect on epilepsy. But what we found in so many cases, you know, by taking CBD, it definitely reduced the number of seizures. But in so many cases, they still continue to have the seizures. And I know I've had reports from a good number of people that added some THC to it. No more seizures. Same thing with autism. They thought that CBD might be good for autistic children, but actually they found that it could have a detrimental effect, but THC does not. You know, all of these cannabinoids are important, and so is CBD. But like I said, never underestimate. The THC is definitely needed. Any extract that doesn't contain THC, I don't even consider it to be hemp extract.
And another thing about the way oil is being produced. I mean, since the last 5 years or so, it's incredible.
Yeah.
The different ways. A lot of people saying it should do it this way or that way.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's got an opinion.
So what do you think of all these developments, like the big, cold ice and I don't know what?
I've heard all these people talking, and I try to keep up with it myself. But, I mean, there has been, and we've run tests on some of the extracts, just produce that simple method with a rice cooker. And, we found that, it's quite easy. If you have good material, it's quite easy to get 90%. In fact, I've heard of 95%. So the whole thing, it's so damn simple, and I like to get people growing it. I've always said to the public, I said, there's only one thing addictive about cannabis, and that's growing, because once you start, you can't stop. You'll always want to grow it.
Okay.
In the movie, what you said, they use isopropyl, but I heard many stories that it is poison.
Oh, it's deadly. Look at me.
No, I know, but if I make...
Benzen's poison too.
But you say you get a high percentage of THC with isopropanol. If I use it with 96% of alcohol, do I get this high percentage as well?
You can get the high percentage, but it's the same like in the U.S. They use a substance called Everclear. 95% alcohol, but the other 5% is water. So that makes it a less effective solvent than, if the solvent was pure, it would be more effective. But at the end of the process, then you get all this damn water that you have to evaporate off, and that takes time. But you can definitely produce high-grade extracts in that manner. I always like to use ether and what we call naphtha in Canada, or benzene here in Europe. And, but I've always told people, if you have a question about a solvent, it's simple. Take the lid off the solvent, the solvent should be clear like water, just the same as water. Put your finger in it, hold it out to the air. Within 30 to 45 seconds, it should evaporate off your finger completely, leaving no oily residue or anything of that nature. If it does that, that's a good solvent. And all of this talk about, poisonous solvents, well, I've had so many people say, you're telling people bad information, you could kill them. Well, I started eating these extracts back in 2001. I'm 67 years old. I don't think they ever done me much harm.
Okay, we've got room for one more question.
Why are some of the oils really, really thick, and why are some of them runny?
Well, if it's made properly, it should be the consistency of a thick grease. But some strains will produce an extract that will be more runny. I've seen a lot of extracts that I used to produce. You had to, once you got it in a syringe, you had to put it in hot water so you could take the dosage. But and I always preferred. I'd like to get, I like to use an extract that you can. It'll take a bit of effort, but you can squeeze it out. It makes it easy to get your dosage. But again, it depends on the solvent you're using. It depends on the strain, and some strains will produce a dark-colored oil. I used to work with a strain called bubblegum. It actually smelled like bubblegum, but that was always a very slippery extract, and it was always dark. I could never get it light. But other strains that I developed myself and some of the other ones I grew, you could hold the syringe right up and you could see right through it, like processed honey is what it looked like.
Okay. Mr. Simpson, I want to thank you very much that you've been here. Anyone who would like to ask more, you can talk to him obviously later on around the tent.
Yeah.
One more question I can...
Okay.
Yeah.
Something about terpenes.
Terpenes.
Well, I don't talk about terpenes and flavonoids because I'm really not much of an expert in that field. I used to produce this in a distilling device, and until the police took it from me. But unfortunately, when you're making like the extract with that rice cooker method, it's very crude, but it saved a lot of lives. But I've used strain like blueberry. I've come into the room as the oil is finishing off. It was just like somebody was baking a dozen blueberry pies, all of terpenes and flavonoids coming off. So my extracts didn't really contain that much for flavonoids and terpenes.
Okay.
More about the cannabinoids.
Mr. Simpson, one more thing you want to say before we close down completely?
Well, I don't care how anyone looks at this, but we're all human beings. We all have the right to life. We all have the right not to suffer. Sooner or later we're all going to die, but it's the suffering that comes before the death that we're so scared of. And from what I've seen, the rejuvenating powers of these extracts and rejuvenating vital organs will make us live longer and we'll be a hell of a lot healthier. Now, who are these people that have the audacity to stand in front of us and tell us that we can't grow a God-given plant to heal ourselves? And what right do they have to do that? So, it's like I said, let's come back here next year and let's see this damn plant totally legal by that time.
Mr. Simpson.